So today we'll be going over some of the changes we made to the training program. This includes visiting controllers, new controllers, and controllers that are already in training. So the topics that we will cover today, we will start with the changes for our new members. So people who are not yet a member, who have not yet requested training. Changes for existing members, so members who are already in training, be that S2, S3, or higher. Changes for visiting controllers. This means everybody who's currently already on the waiting list for visiting controllers and future visiting controllers. And changes to software. So with the launch of the new training program, I will also be updating our software a bit, and we will also go over that. And then last but not least, we will also go over the new changes to the mentor program. So various changes were made on that aspect as well. So first of all, we will start with the changes that will be happening for the new members. First of all, we start at the beginning. So when you request training, you'll be greeted with a new web page instead of just receiving an email. This new web page that contains more information. So it'll have some short introductory info about our VACC, and then the steps to follow to actually request training. So create a VETSIM account, assign your VACC, etc., etc. It will also include a lot more info for visiting controllers, so they don't have to send an email to know how long it takes and all that. So basically, we will go into more detail in a while about all these requirements, etc. But they will also be available on the website, easily to access. The up-to-date waiting times for initial training. This is for our local members, so new members will also be on the website. So you can also always check how long it is currently until training happens. This is something that we added because we currently get a lot of messages asking us how long is it is the queue, how many people are in front of me, etc., etc. So it will always be up to date on the website. This is, by the way, not how long it currently is. This is just temporarily. This webpage is currently not available, but it will be available on launch when the training program launches on the website where you currently request training. That page will be changed to the new one. Speaking of the launch, today we're holding a presentation. Today or tomorrow we will be releasing the new updated starters package. More on that later. If you're watching this on video, it will probably already be released. And then the actual full training program will launch somewhere next week, the latest 7 days from now. So if you're watching this on video, it's probably already released. All right, so we will now go over the new training scheme up to S2, because that's where we currently made the most changes. S3 and C1, etc. was not yet changed. That will come in the future. So the old training scheme for local members was you requested training, you studied some of the guides, did some observing, then you had your initial training on delivery, you got a starter training endorsement on delivery, then ground, then tower, etc. until you had your S2. Now with the new training scheme, it will be a lot more focused on self-training. So if you're a new member, you first of all get to the website, you are guided to our online learning platform. So this will be actual modules which will guide you through the complex theory, explain everything in more detail, etc., etc. This will still be conducted by the observing period, then yes, one test, ground practical training. So we skip the delivery, so you go straight to ground. And ground online endorsement, and then S2, etc. will still be the same. So some of the problems we are currently facing with the current system. So currently there's long waiting times for training. This has been resolved a little bit as well with getting more mentors on the team, but they're still quite long. It currently takes a lot of time before you get your full endorsements. This means ground or tower. And it's a big strain on mentors because the way we currently operate, you stay with your mentor until you get your S2. Now, this is usually between 4 and 6 months, and this is quite the commitment from the mentors currently, and it's something we want to avoid. So with the new training program, improvements will be shorter waiting times because the mentors can easily switch between trainees. Shorter time before you're allowed online. Basically because you do the initial training yourself. So you will do the online modules and the theory before you start with your mentors. So that's all in your own hands. And then in practice, you should have less mentoring sessions. And this will be a lot less strain on the mentors because they will not be don't have to make a 6-month commitment to one trainee. So how will this be practical? So after the training with a mentor, you will get a 3-month solo on ground. You will be able to extend this solo up to 6 months. So say you're on the waiting list for tower training. So once you finish ground training, you will automatically be placed on the waiting list for tower training. You get a 3-month solo, which you can already go online and ground. And if you have not yet received your training after 3 months on the waiting list, you will be able to be extended up to 6 months. And it's possible you have a different mentor for your ground training and tower training just because you will be placed on a waiting list again. So another big change is the online theory lessons. This will be done on a Canvas platform. It's a website made by Instructure, and it's something we host ourselves. This will be used for self-learning, so there will be modules for each rating, S1, S2, S3, and for visiting controllers as well. Currently only the S1 part is online, and the visiting controllers. S2 and S3 and C1 is currently being developed. So there will be modules for each rating, as I just said. This will lower the waiting time for practical training because you will already go into practical training with a lot more knowledge, and that will take a lot of time of the mentors. So what's included in the theory lessons? Basic theory, so theory with graphs and explanation of different theory, for example, what is MSL, QNH, etc. There will also be parts of provision of service. So this is taking the theory into practice with actual Euroscope screenshots and explaining them, and then giving a practical example on how to give an IFR clearance, etc., etc. They also include small quizzes. Now, these quizzes will be at the end of each module. They will basically just evaluate how if you understood all the lessons. These will not influence your training later on. It's just for self-evaluation, as it's said on all the quizzes. It's just for yourself to know if you understood the theory or not. All right, so that's the first part. If you have any questions, I will answer them now. If you want to ask something on voice, feel free to raise your hand in the voice link channel, and then we will unmute you.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
received a question from Ioman indeed. Do we still cover delivery in the first session, or are new trainees supposed to know this? Do we go over the theory at all, or go straight to practical training on Sweatbox?
Elliot, this is covered in the mentor handbook.
I also unmuted you, Elliot, so you can respond.
That's fine. I answered it. Yeah, the mentor handbook, Luca. That's another thing, because we were looking for it with Jeroen the other day, but we didn't find it. It's
Yeah, it
hidden
will be
somewhere.
communicated.
I don't know where.
It will be communicated to the mentors. It's also in the mentor chat, but that will be communicated to the mentors. That's not something that the general public needs to have access to, I think.
No, okay. Well, as long as we can get it, it's fine. Because if a lot of questions can be answered in the mentor handbook, that's fine. But we need access to it.
I can see that William is typing. I will maybe quickly unmute you, Willie. That's a bit easier.
Yes, okay, thank you. Just a question in terms of new students who will have to own their craft on Sweatbox on their own. will there be a guide available for them as well on how to get started, where they can get scenarios from, etc.?
What do you mean? This is only for S3 and up training. I'm not sure. This is not something that will be done. You're not supposed to train yourself on Sweatbox, and so when you're an S2 trainee.
Okay.
So everything is done in the online modules. There's just like examples from. Let me just get the slide back. There will be screenshots from a departure list, for example, to train your clearances, etc.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
All right, if there's no further questions, I will move on to the next part. So the next part is for existing members, people who are already in training with us, local members. So people who are on the waiting list, currently the waiting list for initial training, that is. So if you're a new member, you already did the S1 theory test, you're waiting for training with a mentor. You will have to complete the online courses, and you start your training on ground. So you will skip the delivery because you're on the waiting list. You're currently not in training, so to say. And hopefully you will have a shorter waiting time. So members who are currently in training, if you are before your tower training, so if you are, for example, a delivery trainee or a ground trainee, you will complete the online modules and follow the new training scheme. So this is basically you go to the modules. If you are currently training on delivery, you should go back to grounds. So your mentor will pick up ground with you immediately, or unless the mentor says, yeah, no, it's only one more session. But in practice, there will be no more solo training endorsements be given on delivery only. If you're currently doing your S2 training, you stay with your mentor and you continue with the old scheme, because for S2 alone, there's not really that much that changed. Some other general changes to for existing members, we will also be implementing minimum requirements before you can request your training. This is about minimum hours in the period before you actually request your training. So these will be a bit different for each rating, but not that much. For example, if you want to request approach training, so that's S3 training, you will have to have at least 50 hours control as an S2, so not an S1, but an S2. And it has to be 3 months since your CPT. So say you controlled 50 hours in a week, you will still have to wait until the 3 months are over. And if you had, it's 3 months after your CPT, you still have to have like 50 hours. So it's a combination of both. For Brussels arrival training, so after Luxembourg approach, you go to Brussels arrival. You'll have to have at least 50 hours controlled as Luxembourg approach. This is to ensure that you're already very familiar with the procedures and the standards of approach before you go to a very high traffic airport such as Brussels. And the same as before, 3 months since your CPT. And then to request ACC training, so C1 training, I have to have at least 100 hours controlled as Brussels arrival and 6 months since your CPT. This number is a bit higher because our en route airspace is very, very complex, and you need to be very familiar with Brussels arrival and the underlying sectors, etc., before you can start higher up, because you really need to have this under control before starting with your ACC training. All right, so this is it for existing members. It's not that much because we're currently just focusing on the S2 training, and S3 and C1 will be refined in this year. All right, if there's any questions about this part of the presentation, feel free to ask them now.
Let's see. I see Christophe starting to type. Let me quickly unmute you. It's easier.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have to re-request training for Luxembourg approach?
No, members currently on the waiting list, etc., are still on the waiting list. It's just for people who currently want to request training. They will have to oblige for these hours. But if you're already on the waiting list currently, you stay on the waiting list.
Okay, thanks.
All right, then we go to the next part. That's for visiting controllers. So for visiting controllers, we made quite some changes because currently visiting controllers are just piling up on the waiting list because our mentors don't have time to train them. So there will be some changes to the requirements. So to join us as a visiting controller, we will well, we already followed them, but now we will have them written down, the VETSIM regulations. So you'll have to have a permanent S3 rating or higher. Have control at least 50 hours with this rating. So if you just got your S3 rating, you cannot apply for visiting. You have to have at least 50 hours with it. And then pass our written test about the local procedures. This is just a small test that will follow on the online module, just to ensure that you know all our theory and the local procedures before you're allowed online. And then some changes to how we will train the visiting controllers. If you want to control at the minor airports, so this is everything excluding Brussels, you'll complete the Canvas module, so that's the online training module, complete the written test. And then once the test is passed, you'll be allowed to staff all the airports up to a tower level. Up to an aerodrome approach level, except for Luxembourg. So you will be able to staff Oostende, Antwerpen, Liège, Charleroi, and Luxembourg. But Luxembourg is the only exception where we will not allow visitors on approach, just because it's a very, very complex approach sector, which with a lot of borders and special procedures. And also because it's our training airport for local members for approach. So if it would get too crowded, that would be unfair. Now, if you complete all that, no further training will be required, and you will be granted your endorsement. If you wish to be a visiting controller at Brussels, Luxembourg approach, or one of our en route sectors, things will be a bit different. So these are very complex sectors, and they actually require one-on-one training. So if you wish to join that, you will be placed on a queue. However, keep in mind that there will be long waiting lists, long waiting times, because we give priority to our local controllers for training. So only if the waiting list for local controllers will be empty, we can actually put the resources on our visitors. They're really not a priority for us. But we want to give back to the visitors and allow them to on our minor airports if they wish to do that. All right, this was the part on the visiting controllers. Not sure if there were any questions about that.
Yes, Christophe, there you go. You're muted.
Yes, it was another question about have the requirements to become a mentor changed, for instance, to become a mentor for ground, for instance?
Yeah, those have changed, but that will be the last part of the presentation.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
See, Matthias is the first to type. I can see multiple people typing. So Matthias, there we go.
Yeah, so in order not to discourage visiting controllers, could maybe each 5 slots or so be free for a visiting controller, so they don't keep being added to the end of the list as new local controllers want to be trained?
I've looked at that as well, but currently we just cannot afford it. Waiting times for approach training are more than a year. Currently, well, it's 12 months now, and that is just too long. If we have more mentors and our team is strong enough and we can afford it, then I really want to look at this again. And then we can evaluate that, and when we have the resources, this is a valuable option, and this can be done, but currently it's just not affordable in my opinion. But as I said, I want to get back, and I want to actually give the visitors the opportunity to control with us. So that's why we will allow them on the minors without training. However, as I said, we just simply can't afford it with the current mentor team and the resources that we have for the training department to give a 1 in 5 slot. That would only make it a bit worse currently. All right, after I'll just read your question out real quick, it'll be a bit easier. So Arthur asks if if he can do the training for minors first and then place himself on the waiting list for the full visitors at the same time. If that would be possible. Yeah, sure, that's no problem. So you can complete the test and then be placed for visitors. And then you can be endorsed for the minor airports, and then you can also be placed on the waiting list for Brussels or whatever you want to control, and then you can already go online. So that's really not a problem.
You're also unmuted, so you can respond directly if you want.
Oh yeah, thank you. Then in that case, place me on the full queue, and I will complete the test for the minors whenever it becomes available.
Yeah, sure. All the visitors will be contacted once again via mail to make sure that they get all the info, even the people who aren't available today.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
All right, then we move on to the next part. That will be the changes to software that we made. So we will be launching a new starters package. This will include a new plugin, the CSAMS plugin, or however you pronounce it. It's an abbreviation. This plugin will replace the Mode S plugin. It uses a central database, so it is much more reliable than the Mode S plugin. It also gives a much improved assignment for Squawk 1000, so Mode S assignment. And it also comes with a small updated manual Squawk assignment window, so you can, before you had auto assign and manual sets, but now you also have a discrete MVFR window. But standard, you still use the left click for the auto assign. This, however, will require everybody to either update their whole setup, so just install the new starters package, or if you wish to keep using your old setup, you'll have to do some manual changes. We will be posting an announcement with all the instructions on how to change the plugin to the correct one when we launch the new starters package. So that's either today or tomorrow. We will be also there will also be a new VCCS file included. Now VCCS is a built-in TeamSpeak server basically, or a dialogue rather, in Euroscope itself. This can be used for voice coordination, so it's a direct line to any of the controllers that you want, or any of the controllers that use it. This file is set up for our controller specifically, so we will have all the... this is an older screenshot, by the way. Yeah, we just pushed a newer version, so this is out of date. But it will have all the stations, and it will be green if the controller is online. So you can have a direct line of call with them, rather than sending them a private message over text or being in Discord to talk to them. This does, however, not replace Discord for standard communication, so we will still have the ATC coordination channels, and we still urge everybody to be in them when you're online. And especially during events, etc., the normal way how we handle it will still be applicable. But this will be included, and there will also be lessons on Canvas on how to use this and what it all does. So it's a bit, so people can get used to it, because it's a really useful feature. Some other changes in the new starters package. In the new starters package, the pairs will be automatically installed. So in the old one, you had to do it manually. Now it will automatically be installed. There will be a scratch pad added to the partial list. This is not really a big change, but it's easy. So you can, if you have something that's wrong with the flight plan or something, you can just quickly write it down. The Alias file will be updated. The updated file is already on the website as well, but it will also be updated in the new starters package. And some updated display settings to reflect changes on the visual side. For example, stop bars are now enabled, stands and taxiways that were added are enabled, etc., etc. Right, a rather short one, but if you have any questions about the updated software, feel free to ask them. All right, then we move on to the changes to Mentor program. So the current mentor requirements will be changed a bit. So previously you had to have an S3 rating, and as I said before, you would keep your trainee until S2. So if you started a trainee, you would train them on delivery, ground, and tower. So until they had their S2 CPT, they would be your trainee. Now we're changing that. So people with an S2 rating are allowed to become a mentor, and ground and tower training will be separated. So to become a mentor, there will be a couple of steps. So first you study all the procedures because you will be teaching them, and you need to know them very carefully. And you apply to become a member. You will have a short interview, just checking if you have any background in teaching, etc. How you feel about it, these kind of things. Then you will be in a training period. So you will have to study the mentor handbook, with documents explaining all the steps, what to do with sessions, how to handle feedback, etc. During the training period, you also observe some training sessions from different mentors, so you get a feel on how to teach the practical training, etc. on Sweatbox, that kind of stuff. And I will hold some training sessions on the supervision, so with another mentor or with me. So if you have any questions during the training, still ask them. And once that is completed, you will be released, and then you can, become a mentor on your own. Don't need to have any supervision. So if you're interested in joining the team, these are the requirements in a bit more detail. So you'll need to hold at least an S3 rating, or if you have an S2 rating, you need to hold it for at least 6 months. And at least 50 hours controlled as a tower or higher position. So that's with the S2 rating, or on a tower position at least 50 hours. Have, of course, very good knowledge of our procedures. So especially the Brussels procedures, but also our local aerodromes. As you'll be teaching them, you're expected to know them, very good. You should also be willing to learn the training manuals that we provide and how to work with the software, for example, Sweatbox, and answer questions from trainees regarding plugins, those kind of things, or at least refer them to the correct manuals. Be in good standing with FATSIM, so no disciplinary actions on record, or at least not too serious. If you wish to apply, you can send your application to my email address. Just include your CID, brief motivation about why you want to become a mentor, and that's about it. All right, any questions about the new mentor requirements?
I see William typing. William, let's go.
Yep, so just a short question in regards to if someone is interested to become a mentor, you would like them to observe training sessions as well. Now, let's say someone like me would be interested, but in my case, I also have very irregular working hours where I can never really plan far ahead. Is there still an ability for them to be able to become a mentor, or how do you see it?
Well, planning ahead, if you take a trainee, you're expected to work with them until they get their endorsement. So back before there was tower, right now there will be ground. So as soon as they have their ground solo, you can put them back on the waiting list, and then you're done with them. Regarding schedules, etc., it's how you and the trainee check. So if you find a date that works for you guys, it's not like you have to do at least one session every Monday, something like that. But if you can come to an agreement with your trainee, then that's fine. And regarding the observing of these sessions, we hold multiple sessions a week, and you'll be able to see that on a calendar that we have. So you can just ask the other mentors if you can join in, and that's how that works. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Elliot.
Yeah, as a reply to Willy's question, yeah, as you know, Willy, I'm a mentor, and basically it's just, yeah, like Luca said, Luca answered it pretty well. But you basically just schedule a training with your trainee. It can be, I mean, it doesn't have to be tomorrow. You can say in 2 weeks. when you know that you will have a couple of weekend days, for example. I mean, that's what I am gonna have to do from next Monday as well as I start flying again. So, to answer that question, it's perfectly possible as a train driver like you or as a flight attendant. It's perfectly possible to be a mentor. Don't worry about that.
Perfect. Then we go to Matthias.
Right. It used to be the case that as a mentor, you first had to do several students on the delivery position, then you moved on to ground, and then you did tower, and only then could you do approach. Is that still the same, or could I say, for example, that I'm interested in becoming a mentor, but immediately start with approach training, for example?
I don't think that was really the case before, but I think I know where it comes from. So usually how it used to be, you train a rating lower than your own. So if you have an S3, you train S2. If you have a C1, you train S3, etc. But we're currently looking for mentors for all ratings. So if you want to train S3, if you want to train C1, etc., you're very welcome because the training is totally different. So to answer your question, yeah, there's no real requirement to start on ground training, etc. If you just want to start on approach training, that's totally fine. All right. And if that's everything, then we're already done. It was supposed to be a bit longer. However, I will go into a bit more detail about how the Canvas site will work. So we were supposed to launch today. However, there were some technical difficulties, so we are not able to do that with something to do with the login system. So we have a workaround. So what will now happen if you use the request training button on our website, you will be emailed credentials to log in on the Canvas site. So you will get a username and a password that you can change if you wish. And then you can complete the online modules. As I said, the launch will probably be somewhere next week, latest the end of the week. In the meantime, not much will change except for the new starters package that will launch later today or tomorrow. But other than that, we will have a slow week of testing, and then once it's live, you will get an announcement, and the visiting controllers will get an email with more information. And then, yeah, everything will go live. Regarding S3, C1 training, etc., that was not really covered today. That's not something that I've worked on last year. However, this year, the focus will be on S3 training and C1 training with getting more mentors to train the approach training, because currently the waiting list is just simply too long. And getting new manuals out, etc. And of course, the online modules as well.
Well, I think this concludes everything. If everyone wants to say a second, so I can unmute you, otherwise you'll have a server mute. And then I think we opened it for discussion further on. But thank you for your presentation, Luca.
Yeah, no problem. It was a bit shorter than I expected, but you're welcome.
That's good. In professional world, and we say now we can give 20 minutes back to your day. Have a good day. Bye-bye.